Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 22 baseball playthrough of the New York Yankees. We are at the start of the postseason. It's Monday, October 9th, 2028. The Yankees had a 103-59 record, winning the American League East for a fifth consecutive season. Our goal now is to win the championship. You can see that is our one of our owner's two key goals for the season. First was to upgrade at catcher, and we did make a trade for Francisco Alvarez last season. He's happy with that. You can see that's in the green, but when your goal is to win the championship, you're still in the red when you haven't even won a playoff series yet. So a lot of pressure on the Yankees this year. I have been saying since last offseason that this year was going to be World Series or bust, and that is absolutely our goal. Looking at the standings in the American League, you can see that only Minnesota had a better record than us, not just in the American League, but in all of baseball. It is the third consecutive season that Minnesota has had the best record in baseball and also the only team with a better record than the Yankees. Interestingly, we haven't faced them in the playoffs yet. Minnesota has been picked off by the wild card winner in the divisional round each of the last two seasons, which has meant that we have had home field advantage for the ALCS both years. 2 seasons ago in 2026, we beat the Western Division winning Angels on our way to a World Championship. Last season, while hosting the ALCS, we lost in losing the final 2 games at home. We took a 3-2 lead back to Yankee Stadium and then lost 2 in a row to Cleveland, who went on to lose to the Phillies in the World Series. So the hope is that we will be back in the ALCS this year again. Going to have the Angels in. It's been very stable on top of the divisions in the American League the last 3 years. As I mentioned, we've won 5 straight AL East titles. Minnesota has won the last 3 Central divisions with the best record in baseball each time. And the Angels have won 3 straight AL West divisions, so we'll be facing them again in the divisional series this year. We are going to make some decisions on our playoff roster, so we will walk you through that. As we begin the playoffs, only 2 injuries. Tyler Mahle, who we traded for, you can see only pitched 3 games for us after we traded him before the trade deadline, and then he went out with a torn UCL. He's a free agent after this season. The bigger loss is certainly Carter Benbrook. The 28-year-old came up through the Yankees farm system, strained forearm, out for another 3 weeks. So in theory, there's a chance we may have him back for the World Series if we're able to get that far, but not sure how effective he would be coming right off the injured list and potentially into a playoff situation. So looking at the playoff roster, you can see we've got 26 on it right now. Just going to do some counting here. I want to have 13 pitchers even for the playoffs. Although maybe we should think about cutting it down to 12. I'm going to do some thinking before I circle back. And I'm very glad I did that counting because right now the default went to 14 pitchers for the playoff roster with just 12 everyday players. So certainly going to be changing that as I think through what the playoff roster should look like. So we're actually going to have some significant changes to the default playoff roster. If you look carefully, you may notice that Seizo Murakami, the import from Japan, who was injured most of the season, came back right at the end, pitched 3 games for us. You can see 2.1 innings, 3.86 ERA, but was exceptional in his first full season with us last year, is not on the roster. So in an effort to get down to 13 pitchers, Sean Manaea, who is likely in his final time with the Yankees, we do have a $13 million option for him next season. But he has really kind of dropped out of the rotation this year, started just 6 games for us and pitched his way to a 6.04 ERA. We'll miss his leadership, and he's had a nice run here with the Yankees, but Manaya is going to be moving off of the playoff roster to make space for Murakami. And then we are also going to send down Eric Upton, the youngster, 22 years old. Pitched really well in Scranton. You can see he was involved in a lot of decisions with the Yankees, a 4-3 record, but a 5.02 ERA. We are going to send him off the playoff roster also to get it down to 13 pitchers. And that is going to allow us to, most would think, probably bring Miguel Andujar back, but you can see he only hit 62 at-bats this year and batted 194. Anthony Volpe is a really good defensive player, but we are going to add a bat, Chase DeLauder, who only had 25 at-bats at the major league level this year, but you can see 60, 60, 60 for contact, gap power, and home run power, 50 I and 60 avoiding Ks. So an above-average left-handed bat who is a average defensive outfielder, was our number one pick, our first number one pick while running the franchise back in 2022. Has only been in the majors for 115 days so far. We are going to bring that left-handed bat up to the roster and hope that maybe DeLauder is able to deliver a big pinch hit for us in a key moment in the upcoming series that we're going to be playing. So the playoffs have started. Our roster is set. We will be ready for action shortly. And we are ready to begin our series against the Los Angeles Angels. And you can see here on the playoff tree, the Baltimore Orioles, our division rival, is going to be going up against the Twins. So we will see if the Twins, with the best record in baseball 3 years in a row, can finally get past the division series. But that is not going to be the key priority for us. We are going to be facing off against the Angels and focused on our best-of-5 divisional series. You can see Lance McCullers Jr. spent some time on the IL for us. 8-5 season after going 18-6 in his first year with us last season, going against Mason Albright today. And looking at the lineup from the Angels, our old friend Giancarlo Stanton, who we traded away years ago, is now with the Angels. It looks like Boston may have, looks like Boston probably did trade him away to the Angels this year. And he's out with torn ankle ligaments. The 38-year-old is physically wrecked. Had a good first season in Boston when we sent him over there. As you can see, 27 homers in 126 games, but he has just been a disaster first. 19 homers in 56 games with a 282 average and a 153 OPS plus, so he had a great 24 for them, but was just banged up. Age 35 season, 114 OPS plus, and then since then it's been downhill. 91 OPS plus in 26. 2027, he played 123 games, batted 428 times, just 14 homers and 47 ribbies though. And then this year, looks like Boston just let him go, and he was signed as a free agent by the Angels. So wonder where his contract is. He should be about, he has his contract, the long contract that we wanted to get out of must have expired last season finally. So he wasn't getting paid much this year, fortunately for the Angels. But sad to see the way his career ended up. But we are focused on the Angels right now. Game 1 of the ALDS. And the Yankees with an 18-0 win. Wow. just monster games all over. You can see last year's MVP of the American League, Shiku Shu, 4 for 4 with 6 runs batted in. Even though he didn't hit a homer, we did get homers from Bogarts, who's playing DH, Bellinger in center field, Bichette at shortstop, and the catcher Alvarez. So a monster game for the Yankees, and you can see we got into the bullpen with 5 relievers filling in for Albright after he lasted just 2/3 of an inning. So hopefully that will bode well for the second game in this series if the bullpen for the Angels is not in great shape. Irvin Carter on the mound for the Angels, a really good year, 14-3, 2.62 ERA. And our de facto ace, who similar to McCullers, had kind of an injury-plagued season, just 25 games pitched at the major league level, 8-5 record with a 4.60 ERA for Christian Javier. He did strike out 169 in 139 innings, so hopefully he can deliver a big performance here today as we try to take a 2-0 lead. And a much closer game this time, but we do a 9-8 victory for the Yankees. Francisco Alvarez, trailing 8-7 in the bottom of the ninth, hits a changeup for a 2-run home run. So the catcher off to a brilliant start in the playoffs for us. And you can see just some monster games here. Bellinger with 2 home runs to bring him up to 3 for the series, and Alvarez with 2 homers. Javier, not the best performance in the world, but the bullpen was ready to back him up, and then his battery mate Alvarez with a huge performance to deliver the victory to the Yankees. So we are up 2-0 as we head to Los Angeles for Game 3. Genesis Cabrera, 32-year-old, went 12-9 with a 4.19 ERA. Left-hander on the mound for the Angels against Jeff Hatkinson for the Yankees. 13-3 this year with a 2.94 ERA, 180 strikeouts in 153 innings. Doesn't have the greatest stamina in the world. He's typically a 5-inning pitcher, but if he can give us 5 good innings today, hopefully that means that we will wrap up the series. Not to be the case, though. A 2-1 loss. Looks like Hatkinson probably pitched well, but not enough from the Yankees. Yeah, Hatkinson only went 4 1/3, but only allowed 1 earned run. Luis Funky Cole Medina with the loss. Genesis Cabrera with a big game for the Angels. So now it's our opportunity to hopefully wrap this up before a big game at home, elimination game at home. Would like to avoid an elimination game if at all possible. Back to the playoff coverage, and you can see, the poor Twins routed 3-0 by the Orioles. So the Twins with monster seasons, like kind of 105, 108 kind of win seasons, the best record in the American League 3 years in a row, and they lose to the wild card team in the division series 3 years in a row. Moving on to Game 4 of our series, Andrew Wantz on the mound at home for the Angels. Just a 2-4 record with 4 saves, only pitched 76 innings this season with a 3.99 ERA. For us, Josh James on the mound. Like every pitcher on our staff, he was banged up, only 20 games on the season, but a 7-6 record with a 4.73 ERA. So could be some runs scored today. Let's see what happens. And the Yankees do score some runs, win 10-3. Cody Bellinger with another home run, his 4th of the series, gets the series MVP award. And the Yankees are on to our 3rd consecutive American League Championship Series. And we will be facing the Baltimore Orioles, our good friends from the AL East. They were playing better than us down the stretch. We had a double-digit lead well into September. And then as we talked about on our last episode, Yankees played really poorly in September and October, and we ended up only 7 games ahead of the Orioles. But we will see how the big series with them goes in the ALCS. Well, as we get ready for the Orioles, one positive piece of news, the team record, our goal is to win the championship, but by at least winning that divisional series, we've moved from red to yellow by having moved forward one round in the playoffs. But obviously, as you know, the goal is to ultimately get to the World Series. So we are going to sim ahead a few days till we get to face the Orioles. Ooh, crazy series in the National League with the National League. Dodgers against the Mets and the Brewers against the Nationals, both going to deciding game fives. And the Dodgers and the Nationals will be facing each other in the ALDS, or in the NLCS. Boy, talk about me messing things up. So we are ready for the Orioles, divisional rivals. Christian Javier going up against Mitch White. Split the season between Detroit and Baltimore. Crazy to see Baltimore being a team that's making trade deadline trades, but this team has been our nemesis in the AL for the last several years. They finished second to us several years in a row now. You can see the Orioles first in the league in scoring, but ninth in runs against. Yankees were much more consistent. We're third in the league in scoring, but second in runs against. So hopefully we'll be able to overcome that monster offense of the Orioles. Let's see what happens in Game 1 in the Bronx. 11-10 victory for the Yankees. Looks like a crazy game. Baltimore Orioles got 2 home runs from second baseman Darnell Hernandez, but failed to take the game. Clutch at bat in the bottom of the ninth when New York catcher Francisco Alvarez had a run-scoring walk to give the Yankees an 11-10 win. So Alvarez, with a walk-off home run at home in the bottom of the ninth in the ALDS, now has a walk-off walk in the bottom of the ninth in the ALCS. So the catcher that we traded for last season to give us a little more offense out of the position has certainly paid off thus far in the playoffs. Moving on to Game 2, McCullers Jr., our ace, along with Javier on the mound for us against Joe Hauser, 2-5 with a 6.78 ERA. Oof. I guess it says something about the injuries or just either the injuries that Baltimore is dealing with in their pitching staff right now, or just the fact that they did give 800 runs up this season, that Joe Hauser is starting Game 2 of the ALCS. Hopefully the Yankees can put up some runs on him today, and McCullers can pitch a great performance. Not to be had. Oh, tough loss for the Yankees, 11-6. That seemed like a game that we really wanted to win. So bummer that we didn't get by them, and we are going to go down to Baltimore now, tied 1-1. So Baltimore has the advantage, and Carter Brenbrook, who we were kind of hoping might come back, still suffering from his forearm strain, not healing as fast as expected, going to need some rest. So seems it was already unlikely we would potentially have him back for the World Series. Now seems extremely unlikely. But we should hopefully be able to get there without him. Hatkinson, our do-everything player on the mound. Carlos Montgomery, who did have a good record for the Orioles at 13-10, but with a 5.06 ERA on the mound. Hoping the Yankees can break through against him today. And a 5-3 win for the Yankees. So we go up 2-1 in the series. Get back on serve. Was really largely homers, a 5-3 win, and Pavin Smith, Aaron Judge, Alvarez, and Shu all with home runs. So the Bronx Bombers did their job as we head into Game 4 of the series in Baltimore. Josh James on the mound for the Yankees against Justin Lasco, 12-7 record, 5.03 ERA this season. So another pitcher that hopefully we can score some runs on. Let's see what happens. Baltimore scored some runs on us. Wow. 14-7 win for Baltimore as they doubled us up. We were only able to score one touchdown while they generated a couple on us. Whew. So tied 2-2. It's now a 3-game series, and we'll see what happens. Javier on the mound for us. You can see a 6.97 ERA in the playoffs going against Mitch White, who has a 15 ERA in the playoffs this year. So hopefully Javier can get things straightened out and deliver a win. We'd love to go home with a 3-2 lead. But we are not going to be going home with a 3-2 lead. The Orioles beat us 7-2. Rough game for Javier, I'm sure. 4 1/3 innings, allowed 8 hits, 6 earned runs. So very disappointing for our ace to have put in a stinker here in a critical game 5. So we are going back to the Bronx, and we're going to have to win 2 in a row. Don't think there's anything interesting. Nope. Kurt Schmidt just finding a young shortstop there. So the Yankees' backs are against the wall. McCullers and Hatkinson are going to be on the mound. So hopefully with the two of them, we can get a victory. Joe Hauser and his 6.78 regular season ERA on the mound in the Bronx against the Yankees. And the Yankees take advantage, beat him 5-1. Home run from Aaron Judge. McCullers got the win. So we are going to a Game 7 tomorrow here in New York. Hatkinson on the mound for us, 2.94 ERA in the regular season, 2.70 in the postseason so far, up against Carson Montgomery, who is also pitching better in the postseason. Was a 5.06 ERA for him in the regular season, 3.86 here in the postseason. Game 7 in New York with the World Series on the line and the right to take on the Washington Nationals. And Baltimore has defeated the Yankees. So our quest to win the World Series ends once again in Game 7 of the ALCS at home for a second consecutive year. Disappointing finish to the season for the Yankees, no doubt. As I've talked about extensively, this team was built to win this year. We threw everything we have had at it. So very disappointing to lose in the ALCS in Game 7 for a second consecutive year. Even more bitter to lose to our divisional rival, who will now go on to face the Nationals in the World Series. It's been a wild World Series so far. The Nationals won the first 2 games at home. The Orioles have... the Nationals won the first 2 games on the road. Then the Orioles took 3 in a row on the road. So we are headed back to Baltimore. Orioles with a 3-2 lead. The home team hasn't won a single game in this World Series yet. And they still haven't. Heading to a Game 6, the home team has not won at all in the series. Yes, it's wonderful that Carter Benbrook can come off the IL. Would have been helpful if he was there for the playoffs and the end of the regular season. Not that I'm bitter. In Baltimore, finally a win for the home team in a Game 7 of the World Series. So the divisional rival of ours, the Orioles, win the World Series. Definitely feel like if we had been able to get there against the 95 and 67 Nationals, we could have beaten them also. Huge bummer that we lost in the ALCS this year, but those are the breaks. So we have now been GM of the Yankees for 7 seasons. We have 5 playoff appearances and 5 division titles. 3 trips to the ALCS each of the last 3 seasons, but only 1 championship. So we are 1 for 7. You'll remember when we took over, it was because Brian Cashman was 1 for his last 21 as the Yankees GM in terms of winning World Series. So the hope is that we can still improve on his performance in the coming years, but we really were focused on trying to get it over the finish line this year. So definitely bummed out that we did not execute 100% on what our plan was. So before we finish up this episode, we will take a look at the highlights of the season for the Yankees. Awesome offense for the Bronx Bombers. You can see first, second, or third in almost every offensive category in the American League, and had a great pitching staff also. Second in the league in ERA, second in runs allowed, second in WAR, third in opponent's batting average, first in home runs allowed, second in walks, third in strikeouts, sixth in defensive efficiency, and first in zone rating. So we built a team that was designed to win it all. We had a great regular season record, but it's definitely a bummer to have not gotten over the hump and at least gotten back into the World Series. But it is what it is. It just stinks to lose Game 7s at home 2 straight years, particularly with the Twins being such a great team. You know, when the Twins, the one team that's been better than us, getting knocked out 3 straight years, we've had the second best record in the American League behind the Twins 3 seasons in a row, and only made 1 World Series in that time. So as much as the Twins have, really underperformed, you could argue that the Yankees have also over these last 3 years. Taking a deeper dive into some of our players, Bo Bichette, his first full season with the Yankees, 8.3 WAR, one of the best figures in the entire American League. Led the league with 10 triples, 22 homers, 97 ribbies, 314 average, 863 OPS, 128 OPS plus, and then also, pretty solid fielding stats when you look at his zone rating and defensive efficiency. So this was the huge year of his contract at $40 million. It's going to be a big contract still going forward. You can see just dropping $2 million a year in the coming years, but he certainly earned his money this year. It's going to be in the running for the MVP, along with his teammate Cody Bellinger, who also had a monster year with a 7.6 WAR. Bouncing back from that injury-plagued 2027 he had. Bellinger played in 158 games, 46 homers, 136 runs batted in, 918 OPS, 141 OPS plus. Just a monster year for our cleanup hitter and starting center fielder. Alexander Vargas, the young second baseman, had a 4.2 WAR, 108 OPS plus, batted 290 for us this year. So this was the third straight year that the youngster, who is more of a glove than a bat, has been our starting second baseman. 17 homers, 59 ribbies, the best offensive season that he's had. And you can see his profile defensively for a second baseman is pretty good. And he's obviously a lot more economical than a lot of players on the Yankees. The reigning American League MVP, Shiku Shu, is going to be headed to arbitration, and that's going to be expensive for us, although he was expected to be making in the low 20s when the season started. So the fact that he had a bit of an off year will save us a little money when we go to arbitration, but keep in mind that a little bit of an off year for Shu is 106 runs, 28 homers, 102 runs batted in, a 285 average, and a 126 OPS plus. So, not the glittering 8 WAR that he had last year when he won the MVP, and it's actually the weakest season of his career with a 3.7 WAR. But we are still very excited to have him batting third for us most days. Jason Dominguez, Rookie of the Year 2 seasons ago, is now fragile in terms of injury proneness, which is certainly not what you want to see from a 25-year-old. But had his, I guess, kind of least productive offensive season, maybe. Still hit 30 homers for a third straight year, drove in 91 runs, and a batting average of 281, OPS plus of 127. Was a good year for him. He's been a revelation at designated hitter, and he could be taking over in right field next year, depending on what we decide to do with his teammate Aaron Judge, who we will talk about right now, was next on the team with a 2.9 WAR. Judge, healthier than he was last season, 28 homers, 84 ribbies, batted 255, 113 OPS plus. So the big contract that we signed Judge to, I guess 6 or 7 seasons ago, has worked out well. We had some we had some concern given his injury history when we signed him, but you can see, a lot of 30 and 40 homer seasons, and with the exception of the last 2 years, he was very healthy throughout, playing 145 games plus in most seasons, 150 and plus in several of them. So, he's got 381 home runs, over 1,000 runs batted in his career. He's going to be, turning 37 next season. Right at the start of the season, so we will have a big decision to make with him. Kind of depends how much money he's looking for. If he's willing to take a big pay cut, we'd consider bringing him back. If not, Dominguez probably becomes our starting right fielder next year. Xander Bogaerts, who we brought back as a super sub and hugely expensive, almost $19 million insurance policy for Ke'Bryan Hayes and Bo Bichette, had a really nice year for us. 14 homers, 60 ribbies, batted 280 with a 114 OPS plus. So he absolutely did the job that we wanted. Hard to imagine that we're going to bring him back at his age. He's still looking for $10 or $11 million a year next season. So it will be tough for us to bring him back. Francisco Alvarez, who had some huge walk-offs for us in the playoffs, as we talked about earlier in this episode, ended up with 9 homers and 50 ribbies, just 302 at-bats. He did spend some time on the injured list, but a 281 batting average and a 108 OPS plus. Proved to be a nice upgrade for us at catcher compared to Sean Murphy, who still got some decent action this season, although he was not the starter anymore. Had 10 homers, but batted just 230 with an 87 OPS plus. And then Ke'Bryan Hayes, our wonderful defensive third baseman, offensive year for him. Only 7 homers, 56 ribbies, only played 112 games, batted 256 and a 92 OPS plus. So a bit of a disappointing season for him. Hope that his plus contact and his really good gap power in the coming years kind of help us overcome the fact that he doesn't have a ton of home run power. But a great presence in the clubhouse with his personality, class of captain, and good leadership and work ethic to hopefully influence the other players on the team. So those are kind of the highlights of some of the main players on the team. I'll mention Nick Gonzalez, kind of a super sub for us, 10 homers, 52 ribbies, batted 293. Pavin Smith, the first baseman, down year, not too much power, only 7 homers, 58 ribbies, batted 276. His contract is manageable enough that we could do something different with him if we desire. And then Miguel Andujar, who has been with us as long as anybody, including Judge, really has seen his playing time decrease over the past few years. He is now a free agent. He's going to be 34 years old next season. Given his defensive limitations and the fact that Scott Leyes just doesn't use him that often, we'll probably be moving on from Andujar at the end of this year. Turning to the pitching, I have to say, all in all, it was a little disappointing. Jeff Hatkinson had a great season for us. We talked about him in the playoffs, 13-3, 2.94 ERA, 5 pitcher WAR, so just a great season. Carter Benbrook, who ended up on the injured list until very recently, 6-6, 3.33 ERA. McCullers, not as good as he was in his first season with us. Daniel Salas, a really great year as a closer for us. The 25-year-old, 1-4 record, but 38 saves, 81 strikeouts in 67 innings and a 2.15 ERA. Christian Javier, like McCullers, his co-ace, disappointing year, 8-5, 4.60 ERA. Josh James came over. We talked about him in the playoffs, 7-6, 4.73. Luis Medina generated 1.1 WAR for us, 7-3 record with 1 save, was up all year. Josh Hader with a 4.14 ERA at the age of 34. The lefty specialist is going to need to be taking a big pay cut if he wants to come back with us next year. You'll remember that we traded away Rodriguez early in the season. Josh Taylor, like Hader, lefty, 35 years old, but he pitched better than Hader this year. May look to bring him back. Jared Mahoney, 5 wins, 2 losses, 4 saves, 79 strikeouts and 75 in a third inning, 3.23 ERA. A nice year for him. Davis Daniel and Alex McFarlane both had respectable seasons with the team. Jonathan Lasaiga, just hasn't materialized into the pitcher that we hoped he would, and now he's 34 years old. May have a contract decision to make with him going forward. The disappointing side, Murakami, as we talked about, only played 3 games. You can see a minus .1 WAR. And then Sean Manaea, who we dropped from the playoff roster. We will have an option on him, which we won't be picking up. He had a decent run in his long stretch here with the Yankees, and you can see first year with us, pitched just 5 games and then got hurt, came back and went 13-11, then 13-7. 2026 he was 10-4 with a 1.23 ERA plus. 2027 9-4 with a 1.22 ERA plus. But he has been fragile the whole time he's been with us. Hasn't pitched a full season since 2025. Given that he's going to be 37 years old next season, don't see us picking up the option on him, despite the fact that he's pitched well for us in some big games in the past. So that is a wrap for the New York Yankees and our 2028 playoff run and our highlights of the team for 2028. We will be back in our next episode with a look at the awards for the 2028 season and then our 2028-2029 off-season activities as we try to make sure that we can get a team that will win next year since we weren't able to win this year. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great day.